friend Captain Ted. I'm broadcasting you this notice short. I was able to appear on a internet radio program, Caravan to Midnight. Host John Wells, been very wonderful man, and let me speak a little. So if you want to pull up the archives, Friday night, open naked lines, they call it, call in. I was able to talk on that program a little more in depth. But we have some things going on that is really quite now new development. China apparently is sending now their ships into the Mediterranean. So we're really getting in a tight hot spot here on the world. China does control, unfortunately, the port of Haifa there in northern Israel. So I don't know if that was distrust of America, but Israel somehow let China get in control of the big port in Haifa. China does already control the Panama Canal. We're probably aware of that, but they're controlling so many places now strategic. They also have control of the Athens, Greece port, Piraeus there, which is very distressing, and they are buying up a lot of real estate, I'm told, from local people on the ground there in Athens. But China's expanding their influence, and they've been very quiet through all of this. So, we have to think about Taiwan. Taiwan is sort of the odd man out here in all of these things. But if we expend the rest of our ammunition, missiles, everything in Ukraine and money, which we don't have unlimited money, but if we continue this road, and then now with Israel, they will need a lot of support from logistics, military supplies, weapons. What will we have left if there's some move against Taiwan? How will we have anything to defend? And then after that, how do we defend the United States of America? If anybody's interested in that, that would be the real question to ask. We have a lot of people on the ground, by the way, here in Hawaii that obviously are brought here. I believe by the immigration service that they're not tourists, they're not local people, and obviously they didn't swim here or buy a ticket. But there's a lot of apparently refugees, migrants, whatever you want to call them, but a lot of them showing up here in Honolulu and all through the islands, dragging their wheeling suitcase and their backpack and everything they own. They carry around with them in the parks and bus stops everywhere here now in Honolulu. And it's not looking good. It's not really looking good. And so we have to remember, of course, Taiwan is part of the real legitimate free China, the China that we had as an ally in World War II that we fought with. And the Flying Tigers volunteer group was initially fighting for China. And they became the Air Force group, the fighter group there, commanded by General Scott from my hometown, Macon, Georgia. I was fortunate to know General Scott, but he would be very displeased to see that we're getting ready. I hope not, but it looks like we're ready to turn our back on China, Taiwan, the legitimate free China. And that's where Chiang Kai-shek had to flee with all the non-communist Chinese after Mao came at the end of World War II, and through his cultural revolution, whatever they called it, they murdered millions of Chinese and took over control of China with the help of Russia, I might add. And so Taiwan is our friend, has been our friend, and now they are in need of us. And of course, we are not interested, it seems like. And just like Lahaina, a little closer to home, we don't appear interested in Lahaina, our government anyway, offering $700 per household, and our illustrious president just offered $100 million to the Arabs in Gaza, I guess in reward for the bad acting they've been doing, kidnapping Americans and murdering innocent civilians. So go figure. But these are things that are real serious things coming to light, and they're going to come to, looks like, a really big boiling point. And that whole Mediterranean now is a very small area. Now we have two fleets of American battleships and aircraft carriers, and now China is putting their ships into the Mediterranean. So it's going to get real crowded in there. And you cannot keep soldiers and fighting men for very long on those ships just sitting out in the ocean. They have to do something, and they're going to want to fight. So we hope and pray that it does not boil over into an open World War III. So we are looking at tonight. We're going to be talking about Abraham, who was told to kill his son Isaac, his beloved son. And we're going to look into Genesis, the book of Genesis. It's really about 4,000 years ago that all this took place. And as described in the book of Genesis, Abraham and Sarah waited for a son that they could have of their own. For he was 100 years old when Isaac was born, their son. And Sarah was in her 90s. And there was a love story. I mean, frankly, I don't know that any man loved a son more than Abraham loved Isaac. And we don't quite get it when we're taught in Sunday school and all these stories, but it was an ultimate challenge for him to be instructed by Yahweh to offer his son, his only son, up to show obedience to the Father. And this was not what it appears. It was not a cruelty thing. It was not a heartless thing. It was a very important thing. And I want to talk about that a little bit later on in a different video. But I believe that that video, because of what Abraham was willing to do, give up the thing he loved the most on the earth to show God that he loved God more, paved the way that we might be redeemed by another son that came later, that was a willing sacrifice for our sin. Just like Isaac was willing, he was willing, he loved his father that much. He was willing to be obedient even to death to Abraham, his father. So we'll remember that. And, this quickly, I have to mention that, the Arabs and the Jews are half brothers and sisters. Abraham fathered a son before Isaac. That was Ishmael, with the Egyptian handmaid that Sarah gave to him, not believing that God was going to fulfill his promise. So Ishmael is the founder of the Arab race. And so they call Abraham their father. The Jews call Abraham their father. And yet now they're killing each other, fighting and dying, bloodthirsty killing, and they're brothers and sisters, really, in reality. And it's a fratricide. It is a fratricide launched by the death cult globalist politics of this age, just as is the Ukraine war. Actually, they're Russians, both sides, and they're Russian speaking, and they're Russian Orthodox Christians in Ukraine and Russia fighting and killing each other. That's the fratricide. So we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we thank you all for your attention, and we're going to have another live stream a little bit later this evening. I know it's late on the East Coast, but you can watch it on the replay, and it'll be on the Rumble channel also, as Facebook and YouTube here. So thanks a lot. We love you. God bless you. Aloha.